Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho. It is a Thursday, the 19th day of June. I'm bringing Morning Matters because your mornings matter. Let's get to the stories that matter today. The Senate Impeachment Court and the House of Representatives continue to clash over the delay in Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial, with both sides defending their actions.
Dapat po yung energy po nila na pagkikriticize sa korte ay ginugugol nga po nila doon sa kanilang kalaban dahil hindi po nila kalaban ng korte. Ang kalaban po nila ay yung kabilang party, yung defense po.
Sila yung humahawak ng bola eh. Sila ho yung ginagawa kaming tsubibo.
The COMELEC Second Division has ruled to cancel the registration of the Duterte Youth party list, citing failure to meet jurisdictional requirements. COMELEC Chairman George Garcia, however, emphasized that the decision is not yet final, as the group can still file a motion for reconsideration. And online disinformation worries 67% of Filipinos, the highest level recorded in recent years. Stay tuned as we break this down later in the program. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda, over 30,000 Filipinos remain in Israel and Iran amid the conflict between the two countries. The government's repatriation efforts are facing major challenges due to closed airspace. Here is the report.
Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has launched a series of missiles targeting Israel. But Israel quickly retaliated. 60 of its aircraft carried out an airstrike on Iranian targets, hitting and burning down a building in the process. In response, Iran activated its air defense system. Meanwhile, reports say Israel's defense missile interceptors may be weakening. The intensity of the conflict have even reached areas not directly involved, like Lebanon, where missiles were seen crossing borders. One video went viral showing a wedding in Lebanon interrupted by missile exchanges. Filipinos in Israel and Iran are also caught in the conflict. Among them is Nonami, an OFW in Tel Aviv, caring for a 71-year-old bedridden patient for over a decade. One of the reasons she refuses to leave despite the dangers.
Nakukonsensya ako, sabi ko nandun ako na nagtatago, ikaw ay naiiwan dito.
There are over 30,000 Filipinos in Israel. Of those, 150 have expressed a desire to be repatriated. Meanwhile, one Filipino in Iran is also requesting to be flown home. However, repatriation remains impossible for now, as Israel's airspace is currently closed. This has also left 21 Philippine government officials stranded in the country.
Dami pong conferences na nangyayari dito sa Israel. At in fact, meron ho tayong mga government officials who are in town for seminars. So apektado rin po sila yung pag-uwi nila. So everybody will try to be everywhere, no? Hindi lang po tayo. Marami ang mag-aagawan for sure ng mga flights palabas ho ng Israel pag nagbukas na yung airspace.
A Filipina caregiver injured in the airstrikes remains in critical condition, but no Filipino fatalities have been reported so far. President Bongbong Marcos said the government is monitoring developments closely and is ready to assist affected sectors. For one, he assured the public that the government is preparing a fuel subsidy in response to expected oil price hikes triggered by the tensions.
If you remember during the pandemic, lalong-lalo na yung mga nagpapasada, yung mga para may hanap buhay naman sila, bigyan natin ng fuel subsidies. Now we will have to do the same for those who are severely affected, stakeholders, by any instability in the price of oil. Yes, it's a serious problem.
The Senate Impeachment Court and the House of Representatives are once again exchanging criticism over the delay in Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial. Here is a report.
Impeachment Court spokesperson Attorney Reginald Tonggol said the House prosecution team should stop criticizing and instead focus on preparing for the trial and complying with the court's orders. He pointed out that the prosecution has yet to submit an attestation proving they do not violate any constitutional provisions related to the impeachment case, nor have they filed a notice of appearance. According to Tonggol, this lack of compliance is what's causing delays in the process.
It seems na Hindi po yung impeachment court yung unprepared. Ano po ba ang motibo para i-criticize po ang impeachment court? Dapat po yung energy po nila na pag-criticize sa korte ay ginugugol nga po nila doon sa kanilang kalaban dahil hindi po nila kalaban ng korte. Ang kalaban po nila ay yung kabilang party, yung defense po.
But the prosecution fires back, insisting they are not the ones to blame for the delays.
Yung kanilang order, yung resolution nila, requiring the submission of these two, ang cause of delay. We are not criticizing the impeachment court. We are calling them out. Do your duty. Listen to the clamor of the people. The people want a trial.
Bukoy also told 1PHS sa totoo lang that it was unjust to single out the House, pointing out that it took the Senate 5 months to act on the impeachment complaint after it was transmitted.
Sinabi lang ni Attorney Tongol na it's been 7 days. Wala pa kayong pinafile. Gaya na nasabi ko, hindi naman ganun kasimple hinihingi ninyo eh. There are repercussions. Second, naiinip ka sa 7 days, ngayon 5 buwan na. Hindi pa rin kayo nagsisimula ng trial. Sa halip, mas pinapahirap nyo. Mas naging komplikado. We are stuck at preliminaries. Dapat hindi na ito pinag-uusapan.
Attorney.
So, 7 days, 5 months, you do the math.
Backing him up is House spokesperson Attorney Princess Abante. She said the Senate is requiring documents that the Constitution doesn't even mandate.
Ang requirement lang ng Constitution, a verified complaint that is sufficient in form and substance. Action speaks louder than words. No? Siguro, nakita naman natin yung mga nangyari sa mga huling araw tungkol sa ko-convene ng impeachment court. But, yung katulad nga ng sinabi ni Presidente, we want the impeachment process to just continue.
Despite the back and forth, the House maintains that the prosecution panel is ready to appear and present their evidence. As of now, Tonggol says the defense is expected to file a motion to dismiss next week. Once that's submitted, the prosecution is expected to respond on or before June 30. The court is also anticipating the attestation to be submitted before the 19th Congress ends.
The Justice Department claims that former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque failed in his asylum bid in the Netherlands. DOJ Secretary Boying Remulla said Roque has now turned to Germany for refuge. He added that they are working on having Roque's passport canceled or have him extradited, quote, when the time comes.
Alam ko, hindi siya nabigyan ng asylum ng Netherlands. Kaya nasa Germany na ang pagbibigay nito kung sa pakasakali. Hintayin natin. Basta yan, pwede naman file ng extradition yan pagdating ng panahon. Pero baka hindi na kailangan kasi kakancelin naman ang passport niya. Pag naging undocumented alien yan, ay pwede nang kunin ng Interpol.
But Roque was quick to deny Remulla's claim, calling it fake news. He said this is already the second time that the Justice Secretary gave wrong information about him, the first being that he had multiple passports. Roque believes that Remulla is getting his info from the rumor mill. Roque further clarified that his trip to Germany was a pre-planned activity and was upon the invitation of the Filipino community there, and that he is now back in The Hague. Roque is facing an arrest warrant in the Philippines for qualified human trafficking cases related to pogos. Meanwhile, the second division of the COMELEC has voted 2-1 to cancel the registration of the Duterte Youth party list. The decision states the group's registration was void from the beginning for failing to meet jurisdictional requirements. These include not publishing their list of nominees in 2 major newspapers and skipping the mandatory application hearing. COMELEC Chair George Garcia clarified the ruling is not yet final, as the group may still file a motion for reconsideration within 5 days. Duterte Youth secured over 2.3 million votes in the midterm elections, earning 3 seats in the 20th Congress.
Ang issue po dyan ay issue ng nag-comply ba sa requirements ng accreditation yung mismong naturang party list. Ibig sabihin, meron ba siyang publication at meron ba siyang hearing. Ang sabi po ng Comelec Division, voting 2-1 ay wala po yung dalawang requirements na yan, which are mandatory requirements, and therefore, ang sabi po nila ay void from the very start yung accreditation. And therefore, dapat kinakancel po yung accreditation ng party list po na yan.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more stories right after the break. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. The Education Department admits that the country is in a learning crisis. DepEd Secretary Sonny Angara said many students are struggling with basic reading and math, falling behind their grade levels. Angara pointed to COVID-19 pandemic's lasting effects, saying some children still can't read after years of learning without a teacher's guidance.
May mga bata na hindi pa marunong magbasa, nasa bahay lang sila, hindi nila kasama yung teacher. So, paano sila matututo magbasa? Binigyan lang ng papeles. Hindi sila matututo dahil hindi nga sila marunong magbasa. Bibigyan mo ng papeles, hindi nabibisita ng teacher, di ba?
Meanwhile, the Department of Agriculture has discovered smuggled onions being sold at Paco Public Market during a surprise inspection. No import permits were issued this year, making all imported onions in markets illegal. Now, these onions, larger and smoother than local ones, are sold at 120 pesos a kilo, hurting local farmers during the post-harvest season. The DA also warned of possible health risks, including E. coli and heavy metals found in previously seized shipments. The DA is now coordinating with the PNP to trace the source of these smuggled goods. Meanwhile, starting July 1, the agency will lower the price cap on imported rice to 43 pesos a kilo to ease the burden on consumers.
Kaka-harvest lang, nababawasan yung kita ng ating mga farmers di ba? At kumikita lang yung walang investment sa pawis at pagod. Hindi tama yun. Yung mga nahuli na smuggled na onion few weeks ago or few months ago, ang problema doon may E. coli. Pangalawa, meron traces of heavy metal.
Iimbestigahan po yan, and nabanggit nga natin na top to bottom na lang. From the sources, we will try to track down saan yung volume na pinanggagalingan yan. We will need a constant collaboration at coordination sa DA for the said confiscation and filing of cases dyan sa mga nag-hoard niyan, mga warehouse niyan o mga malakihang nagbiyabiyahin niyan para matigil po yung smuggling ng ating mga onions and other products.
In part 2 of his exclusive interview, President Marcos weighs in on concerns close to Filipinos. That's education, food, and national security. The details in this report.
President Bongbong Marcos admits he is as let down as others with the K-12 program. For him, it only added costs and effort and failed on what it promised to deliver: make high school graduates ready for employment.
It is the same frustration that I expressed in the first place. Kasi it's costing more for the parents. Sa 10 years, wala namang advantage. Wala namang naging advantage. Hindi rin nakukuha sa trabaho.
But while the K-12 is still in place, the president says the government has to make it work. The chief executive is also as frustrated with other issues hounding the education sector, from lack of classrooms and other facilities to teachers' shortage.
Sipin mo, 160,000 ang kulang natin na classroom. Paano nangyari yun? Basta't pinabayaan na lang.
Then there are the issues teachers have to deal with, aside from being required to double up on duties and wear as many hats as possible in order to keep up with the needs of students and their schools.
May performance audit at the end of the year para sa mga teacher. So pag sinasabi, kalahati ng klase mo, bagsak, mahina kang teacher. Bababa yung performance audit mo. So kahit na hindi marunong magbasa, ipasa mo na. Yun ang nangyayari. Pero we will remedy that. The performance review is not going to be based on that.
On rice prices, Marcos highlighted record-breaking palay harvests from 2023 to 2025. With production up, he says lower prices are becoming sustainable without relying on subsidies.
Baka hindi alam nga ng tao na in 2023, we had the largest We had the largest crop of palay in the history of the Philippines. So our production is slowly going up. Since our production is already going up, bababa ang cost of production. Ang pagbenta ng NFA, pababa ng pababa. That's why I'm so confident masabi sustainable.
Magagawa po kaya yan bago
Magagawa
matapos ang
yan,
inyong termino?
magagawa yan.
The administration is not only confident of the sustainability of the Cheaper Rice Initiative, it also has big plans on making the Kadiwa program fully funded by the national government.
We are providing the volumes that are sufficient for 51% of our population. That's for now. It will all be 20 pesos.
Hintayin natin yan, Mr. President.
Pareho tayo.
Another gut issue for Filipinos, security. His marching order to new PNP Chief Nicolas Torre III, make Filipinos feel safe again. Patrol the streets, destroy seized drugs immediately, and restore trust in law enforcement.
Even if the statistics are telling you crime rate is down, drug seizures are up, that's not enough. We instigated already this new program. That's the only way that people will feel safe.
Paano po rin kaya mararamdaman yan sa like the barangay level, sa communities?
Well, what is happening, because we were concentrating doon sa mga big time na drug syndicate, drug lord, yung mga small time. Kaya yung cops on the beat, that's the solution to that.
The third and last part of my exclusive interview with President Marcos airs on Friday, June 20. Catch it on the social media platforms of 1PH, 1 News, News 5, True FM, and the Presidential Communications Office. I'm Cheryl Cosim. We are 1 News.
Now stay tuned for more Morning Matters. We'll be back right after a short break. Good morning, I'm Gretchen Ho, and here on Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give you the context behind the headlines. Expelled Congressman Arnie Teves is now recovering following an appendectomy. Teves underwent surgery at the Philippine General Hospital after complaining of severe stomach pains. His camp criticized authorities for allegedly delaying access to urgent medical care. The Interior Department said Teves will be returned to detention immediately after recovery. And joining us now to tell us more about his condition is attorney Ferdinand Topacio, legal counsel of former Congressman Arnie Teves. Good morning. Welcome to Morning Matters.
Yes, good morning, Ms. Gretchen. It's always a pleasure to be here.
We're not on a couch anymore. It's a big story, no? Sa round table na to. Okay, let's talk about the condition of Congressman Arnie Teves. How is he now after his surgery? What happened there?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, as a layman, he suffered severe stomach pains 2 days ago at around 7 p.m. Unfortunately, it took the authorities at the BJMP until morning of the next day to bring him to the nearest hospital, and then the diagnosis was that he needed immediate surgery to save his life. But unfortunately, the first hospital he was brought to did not have the necessary facilities, so we had to wait until he was transferred to the Philippine General Hospital, which is obviously a much bigger and better equipped hospital.
You were complaining of delays.
Yes.
What does this tell us about the state of the healthcare system inside our penitentiary?
Well, it does not paint a good picture because, and I said it's not only for Congressman Teves, but for all the other inmates, that if it takes this long, and to think that Congressman Teves is a high-profile, high-risk inmate, if it took that long for him to be given medical attention...
Which is several hours, right?
More than several hours. In fact, if you compute it, it was almost 24 hours from the time of the onset of the pain until he was given adequate medical attention by way of an operation.
Because it needs to be put in court.
actually, with respect to emergency cases, the warden is fully vested with authority to make decisions with respect to medical attention as long as the destination of the inmate is a government hospital, which is true in this case.
Pero there are allegations from, specifically from the other side, opposing side, Pamplona Mayor Janice Digamo. She's saying that these are delaying tactics, judicial games, and drama. And you know how much this has happened in our political scene, in our judicial scene, where those who are arrested suddenly come up with some kind of sickness. Biglang lalabas na may ganito, may ganyan, yung pala, alam mo na.
Well, obviously, when you look at what has transpired, I think Congressman-elect Janice Digamo now has an egg on her face because you cannot fake that. You cannot fake appendicitis. You cannot fake an appendectomy. And it is beyond doubt that he underwent an operation which, in order to treat a life-threatening illness. So that's the problem when you speak without thinking or knowing the facts. You come up with logorrhea.
Pero kayo po ay nakapagbisita sa kanya dito sa PGH?
I was with him all the way from the time that I was summoned the next day because the pains started on the 16th. I was summoned early morning of the 17th. And I demanded that he be taken to a hospital because at that time he had been suffering for more than almost 12 hours, from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. And he has not yet been taken to any hospital. He was just being attended to by the in-house nurse. So I demanded that he be taken to a hospital, which was done. But then he had to stay in that hospital as while there was a back and forth communication between prison authorities as to what to do with him, until finally, when it was becoming obvious that the ailment, that the condition was potentially fatal, then the decision was made to transfer him to PGH.
Okay. And he was moved from the NBI facility in Muntinlupa to the Camp Bagong Diwa. Is that where he will stay for the duration of his trial? I mean, your plea to keep him in the NBI facility was rejected, right, by the Manila Regional Trial Court.
Yes, that is still under question for certain matters because it is our contention that what Branch 51 did was in contravention of the directive of no less than the Supreme Court. That the first, in cases of multiple cases in several courts, the first court that issues the commitment order should prevail. And in this case, it was not Branch 51 that issued the commitment order, but Branch 12. And Branch 12 was not yet implementing its decision because we had a pending motion for reconsideration with Branch 12. So we are at a loss as to why Branch 51 intervened in this case. But that's another matter for another episode.
I know. And speaking of, marami kasing kaso na hinaharap itong si Congressman Arnie Teves. Taking a look at it, parang meron po siyang 10 counts of murder, 13 counts of frustrated murder, 4 counts of attempted murder in Branch 51. And then meron din po yung, syempre, if we clump it all together, it is not just about the alleged murder of Roel Digamo back in 2023, but also happenings in Negros Oriental in 2019. Will all of that come together in one court, in one trial, one hearing? How does that work? And ano pong uunahin po ninyo?
Well, they're filed before different courts. There are cases before Branch 12, Branch 15, and Branch 51 of the Regional Trial Court of Manila. Plus, there are 2 other cases before the Regional Trial Courts of Quezon City. But all of these cases were separately filed. There is one case, the allegations with respect to a 2019 set of murders that had already been previously dismissed by the DOJ but refiled, wherein we are moving for consolidation to make the trial faster. So what I mean to say is, of all people, it is the congressman who wants to have these trials expedited because we are convinced of his innocence. So all
Which
this,
comes across as ironic for some or for many because he escaped the Philippine justice system for about 2 years by going to Timor-Leste, and he comes back and wants a speedy trial.
He sought asylum because he believed, and rightly so, that he was being politically persecuted and that he could not attain justice, at least with respect to the executive branch. But now that he's back, and as the records of the previous trials will show, there is a paucity or dearth of evidence against him now that he is under custody of Philippine authorities. He is now invoking his right to a speedy trial, which is not ironic considering that it is the other camp who has been hurling allegations against us for trying to delay. We have never tried to delay the case. In fact, in Branch 51, we insisted that there be pre-trial immediately. And then when the judge said that it was not possible, we asked for 10 days. But it was the lawyer of Janice de Gamo who asked for 30 days when we were ready right there and then. And then when the judge said that it had to be deferred, we only asked for 10 days. They asked for 30 days.
Okay, and he will have to answer to all of this in our courts. But the appeal on your side is to have all of these consolidated.
Not really. There are rules with respect to consolidation that cannot apply to all of them. Some of them may be consolidated, but the others will have to go on separately.
Okay, and to hear all of that, how long will it take, you think?
Only heaven knows, actually, in this country. It could be a year, it could be 10 years.
So Congressman Arnie will be staying at the Camp Bagong Diwa facility for a good time.
Yes, it doesn't matter.
Given all of these cases.
It doesn't matter whether he stays there for a long time. It's just that we have a move to have him transferred back to Building 14 for certain reasons.
Okay. I want to go to Timor-Leste, which I think is very interesting. His arrest and deportation drew a lot of attention to international legal protocols. Do you think there were irregularities there, or was it right on the book what happened, the deportation of the former congressman?
Definitely, and this is not my opinion alone, but in fact, I have news to the effect that the Parliament of Timor-Leste is now investigating as to why Mr. Teves was repatriated forcefully via a collusion with the Timor-Leste Executive Department and the government of the Philippines when there is a final and executory court ruling from the highest court of Timor-Leste, the Tribunal de Recursos, prohibiting the extradition of Mr. Teves. They say that, and there is a provision in the Constitution of Timor-Leste that, as I was made aware of, which prohibits any orders contrary to a final and executory decision of the courts in Timor-Leste. So it has become quite a matter of great controversy, not only in Timor-Leste, but as you've said, in international legal circles, especially human rights groups.
Actually, kung titignan mo, parang they have also previously ruled on this in favor of extradition. There were 2 rulings favoring extradition, and the third one was taking that back. And Justice Remulla was quoted to have said that they have a very young judicial system. It is not yet mature, and they are figuring things out along the way. So could it have been, a legal prerogative by the Timor-Leste government to think of the former congressman as a national security threat, and to have deported him, and that was legal, within their legal means to do so?
First of all, it is unseemly for a government official of our country to be making criticisms of the legal system of another country, especially a country with which we have diplomatic relations. That's uncalled for and very undiplomatic. But of course, that's Boying Remulla. What do we expect? Anyway, with respect to that, of course, the executive department of Timor-Leste has every right to think that there is a security risk. However, that opinion cannot prevail over a final and executory judgment of its own courts. It's not even the court of the Philippines or any other court. Because if they contravene the mandate of their own courts that destroys or severely dilutes the separation of powers that is also applicable with respect to the Timor-Leste Constitution.
But he also had no papers. He had no visa. He had a canceled passport. So technically, wala po siyang papeles. Undocumented alien po siya dun.
Nonetheless,
was his asylum granted?
Well, nonetheless, his asylum is under process. But there is a principle in law applicable everywhere because this is based on Roman law. Therefore, it is of universal application that you cannot do indirectly what the law does not allow you to do directly. And what the court of Timor-Leste has prohibited is the repatriation or extradition of Mr. Teves. By deporting him, in effect, he has been extradited to
But
the
wasn't that
Philippines.
also the decision of the Timor-Leste government? I mean, in effect, it was a rejection of that asylum application.
Nonetheless, there is still a court order. There is a process by which you reject an asylum application, and that is by informing you that it has been rejected, because that rejection may still be subject to appeal again to the courts. That's why there is a judicial system. It operates as a check on the actions of the executive. The principles, the bedrock principles of the Timor-Leste court, of the Timor-Leste Constitution is basically the same as ours, although it is parliamentary.
Kahit hindi po siya citizen ng Timor-Leste?
Yes, because
But
the
wala siyang-
laws of a country apply not only to the citizens of that country, but to all those
So
who
what could have,
sojourn.
how could this have happened legally? I mean, if he was deemed as a security threat by the government there, paano po dapat tumakbo yun?
Well, there are other ways by which that a supposed security threat may be neutralized. He may be placed under house arrest. He may be put under surveillance legally by the security forces of Timor-Leste. But definitely, he should not have been deported because that is tantamount to an extradition which was prescribed by a final and executory order of the Timor-Leste court.
Sabi nyo nga po na bigyan kayo ng writ of habeas corpus. Pero this has been debunked by both the NBI and the DOJ that there was no court order granted. I mean, can you...
There is. In fact, I have a copy of the writ of habeas corpus. Unfortunately, of course, there is no way by which a court, any court, even in this country, may enforce its judgment if the executive refuses to enforce it. Case in point, the temporary restraining order against Secretary de Lima, which allowed former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo to leave a TRO against the whole departure order of De Lima. And we all know what happened there. We were already at the airport. I was there personally. And the executive department did not honor that temporary restraining order of the Supreme Court. They did not allow my client, Mrs. Arroyo, to leave. That is one example wherein if the executive department refuses to implement a court order, there is very little that the courts can do. However, it erodes the powers of the judiciary and the separation of powers. And
Kumbaga, hindi sinunod.
Hindi sinunod. Binraso lang. The writ of habeas corpus, they can fact check me on this. I have the documents. I'm very confident of what I'm saying. My name is not Boying Remulla. I do not speak if I'm not sure of the facts. But it was ignored by the executive department. He was still under detention in the Interior Ministry compound when the writ of habeas corpus was issued. Unfortunately, it wasn't honored.
Okay, I want to get your mind on the asylum application of former spokesperson Harry Roque. Sabi rin ni Justice Secretary Remulla na hindi ito na-grant ng Dutch courts, to which Harry Roque responded, fake news. Ano po ba yung proseso doon? Kasi on our end, we haven't gotten clarity over it. And given the sensitive nature of asylum seekers, it's probably only Attorney Roque who knows. Am I correct? And Paano po yun na siya po ay may arrest warrant na dito sa Pilipinas?
Well, I would suppose na kaya siya nag-apply ng asylum is, again, he is pleading political persecution. Each country has its own process for granting asylum. But the general principles are always the same anywhere. A person goes to a country, he seeks political asylum, he applies, and the executive department either grants or rejects it. Of course, an asylum application is it's quite a heavy burden because by applying for asylum, you're basically saying that your country is persecuting you. That's why you want the protection of another country. So those are the principles. But with respect to Attorney Roque, I am not cognizant of the actual facts. Again, if I make an opinion there, I would be doing a Boeing.
Pero kung para sa inyo, dapat po ba siyang umuwi at sagutin na lamang yung charges against him? Because if you flee, the more guilty you look.
Actually, that principle is not a hard and fast rule. That is why there is the principle of asylum. There are exceptions to that. And actually, one of the exceptions was exercised by, if you recall, Senator Panfilo Lacson, who had a warrant of arrest also for the Ser Corbito murder case,
Pero
double
umalis
murder
siya.
case. He fled. And then later on, he was exonerated. So there are so many exceptions to that rule. It's not a hard and fast rule. Actually, it's when it comes to legal principles, it's not a fixed legal principle.
But it seems the government is going the same way as they did with former Congressman Arnie Teves na inantay na lang nila mapaso itong makancel yung passport, mapaso yung visa para habulin na lamang nung authorities. Let's see though if what the Dutch courts do decide on this.
Okay, well, well, of course, it is well within the rights of the executive department of our country to do that. But what my take on this is that if a self-confessed terrorist such as Joe Masison was granted asylum in the Netherlands, why would they not grant Harry Roque the same courtesy when it is very obvious that what he is undergoing is simply political persecution due to his loyalty to the former president, Rodrigo Duterte.
Well, it actually comes in a bad time, that asylum application, because of the change in leadership over in the Netherlands. They have become more conservative, less open and welcoming to asylum seekers. So I think he's going to have a very tight opening there.
Well, good luck to him.
All right, thank you so much for weighing in with us and updating us on the condition of Congressman Arnie Teves. We have Attorney Ferdinand Topacio joining us on Morning Matters today. Don't go away, more matters to discuss right after the break. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. PLDT and Smart have launched an AI-generated video to raise awareness about the rising threat of fake content circulating online. The campaign emphasizes how new technology has made it easier to create deceptive videos, urging the public to be more critical and cautious. The companies encourage everyone to verify information before sharing and to remain vigilant in spotting misleading or manipulated media. They also called on the public to help protect one another from scams that now use advanced digital tools to deceive viewers.
Let's be aware. Magtulungan tayo na maintindihan ng bawat isa ang mga nakikita at napapanood natin.
Uulitin ko lang ha, ang lahat ng nakita nyo, fake. Walang totoong tao dito. Pati ako fake.
Concern over online disinformation in the Philippines has hit a record high. According to the latest Reuters Institute Digital News report, 67% of Filipinos say they are worried about fake news, marking the highest level since the country joined the global study in 2020. And to help us unpack these findings and what they mean for public trust and digital literacy, we are joined by Dr. Rachel Khan, professor at the UP Journalism Department. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Good morning, Gretchen. Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Professor, I want to pick up from that last story we had on these fake curated AI videos. There's been a lot of debate online over these videos, but what do you make of them? How concerning is this technology that is emerging? It is actually easy to make these videos now, and the latest I heard is that China is even making it free for users to do. So what are you seeing here?
Well, we're seeing a new wave of disinformation and the type of disinformation that makes it even more difficult, even for the experts or the fact checkers to detect. This will mean that it's going to take more time and more expertise to determine whether something is fake or not, which means that it will be more, the public can be more susceptible to this type of deep fake disinformation.
And the latest study of Reuters says that 67% of respondents are now concerned about disinformation online. Does this mean higher awareness? And should we be happy about this number?
In a sense, there is a higher awareness. I think we see that from the also from the results of the elections, that at least among the youth sector or the 40 and below, there is a more awareness that there's a need to fact check and there's a need to look for sources of, to verify the sources of information before they believe into something. I think the PLDT campaign helps people see how easy it is to be fooled and how realistic AI can be.
Okay, but we are above the global average of 58% and the regional average of 60%. What does this mean? Is it because of the proliferation of disinformation? Ibig sabihin, tumaas yung awareness dahil tumaas din yung incidents na nagagamit talaga yung online platforms or whatever platforms there are to spread this information. At naiintindihan na ba ng Pinoy? More importantly, nadi-distinguish ba nila kung ano yung disinformation when they see it?
Okay, so in terms of quantity, based on what our findings in check.ph, yes, in a way, nag-increase yung disinformation, but then disinformation has been very prevalent since 2019, or actually since 2016, but it's been escalating. What is good in the recent year is that more people are turning to official sources and fact-checking sources before believing in something. This is something new in terms of the increase in the public turning to what they believe are trustworthy sources and also for fact-checking sources. So that is something positive. And we think it's also a result of greater media literacy that has been an effort of many civil society organizations and academic institutions.
Okay. What other notable parts of the study are you seeing here? In terms of, isa na nabanggit po ninyo that more people are turning to official sources. How about the source of information? Where are people turning to?
Well, what we see over the past years, people are increasingly turning to social media and podcasts. So platforms, no? But what is positive in this study, so this study was conducted, the lead researcher here is Professor Yvonne Chua of the UP Journalism Department. She is the Philippine representative to this international research. And one of the positive things that she found in her study was that people were already discerning, even among media practitioners who were the ones who were consistently or more trustworthy. So more than even media outlets and and sites. They looked for it's personalities that have proven to be credible. So that's a positive thing rather than bumaba yung trust sa celebrities and politicians. So now I think looking at official sources is a positive development.
There seems to be a blending, though, of platforms. We see journalists going online, and we see influencers also doing political content. They are also having a loud voice. Can people distinguish the difference between journalists and bloggers, or is that a blurry line, and integrity, transparency counts most? What are we seeing on that end?
I think we're seeing that those journalists who have proven themselves as credible remain, I think, the more popular ones. But of course, influencers are still very popular in that sense. The thing is, people even in the survey who say that they can discern, that's still an opinion, their own opinion. So it does not necessarily translate to the reality that they are able to discern what is disinformation and what is real.
Okay, the biggest threat to the information landscape seems to be political actors at 55%, influencers at 48%, we got activists at 38%, and journalists come at fourth at 37%. Does this mean that, I want to pick up from your point a while ago that people are turning to official sources. Meron bang pagbalik dun sa organisasyon? And kumbaga parang kung dati may disbelief, no, in mainstream media, ngayon may pagbalik. Ano naman yung nakikita natin dito?
Actually, it's less of going to the official websites, but more of the news feeds by the mainstream media. That's what we're seeing. So it's still important for mainstream media to be present on the social media sites, and that's where they're picking up audience. What we see here, for me, it's a positive development that they are less trustworthy of politicians and influencers, meaning influencers independent of mainstream media. So basically those that became popular only because of social media algorithms. So that's a good development, that the audience has become slightly more discerning than in the past years, and hopefully that trend goes up.
A new thing that is emerging is the use of artificial intelligence. We talked about videos already, but AI chatbots as news sources. How rampant is that? How do people search for news, or do they get their digest from AI?
Yes, that's a trend, especially among the young, which I am worried about, because they use it like a search engine. And then they make, for example, they ask the AI bot to, who are the top, let's say, senator candidates, or who are the, basically asking prompt questions that make the AI decide or give criteria for them. And what people don't realize is that AI only picks up what is available on the internet, which means that there is no guarantee that what the AI will churn out is truth. So, that's another form of disinformation that we have to start, helping people see that AI as a search engine can actually lead to more disinformation than truth.
Because it bundles up all the information that it gets, at baka yung mga maliliit na detalye mali-mali, hindi pa rin siya foolproof. But you were talking about...
Plus it doesn't show the sources of information.
Oh, yes.
See, that's what's a danger. Because if you're doing a Google search, you can at least trace where the information comes from. But if you're using AI as a search engine and it bundles up and summarizes everything, you cannot tell where it got the information from, and that's where the danger lies.
Hindi ba may website naman siyang nilalagay dun sa tabi nung kung ano yung na-research niya?
Oo, pero yung website na yon, unless you go the effort of clicking on the footnotes, right? But how many people actually do that? And then it's only going to, go through using the algorithms in terms of citing sources. So you're not going to see the full picture, even in that. It's only when, and it's not all the AI. For example, ChatGPT does not do that. Copilot does, Gemini does, but it depends on what AI also you're using, right? Because not all AI bots tell you where they're getting their information.
You talked about the difficulty in fact-checking. It is even harder now with the proliferation of AI video. What needs to be done? I mean, it's always been a game of whack-a-mole, right? Look, going after the disinformation online. But what adjustments need to be done on your end in check.ph for fact-checkers, for those looking to correct information online?
Actually, what is going to happen is it's going to just take more time. We'll be using AI tools to determine whether something is a deep fake or real. But unlike text disinformation or spliced videos, which are easier to determine, the deep fakes will entail actually some processing on our part, on AI analysis and all that. So, which means more time. So it means, it's gonna take, if it takes us at least an hour or 2 hours to now verify a disinformation item, it could take longer.
Okay. And how is the news landscape changing? Of course, the digital news report also talked about news fatigue and news avoidance. Are people still tuning in to the news, or are they increasingly going towards personalities they like and kind of echo their beliefs?
I think it's a mix of both. In terms of this long-form discussions, they would turn to podcasts rather than the news. And as we see from the study, people prefer video. So they would look at the short reports on television or online news rather than read the entire story on print.
So it's print that's suffering from the change in landscape, but certainly there are a lot more platforms now. And one thing that I noticed personally is compared to 2022, the news organizations have adapted to this online landscape already. So I guess that gives more exposure and a level playing ground. All right, maraming salamat sa iyo for sharing with us your insights on the latest digital news report. We have Dr. Rachel Khan, professor at the UP Journalism Department. And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. We are One News, all sides, all the time.